Hello, and welcome to A Sound Constitution here on CHLY 101.7 FM. This is a show where we focus on health topics that are important to our community. This year's team is made up of 6 third-year VIU nursing students. Our goal? To demystify health issues and address common misconceptions by sharing evidence-informed information from a variety of reliable sources. All information provided on our show will be available in our show notes, on our Facebook and Instagram pages. We want to remind listeners that the information presented in this show is for educational purposes only. It does not replace the advice of your primary healthcare professional. If you have any questions or concerns about what's being discussed, feel free to reach out to us on Facebook at A Sound Constitution, on Instagram at CHLY, A Sound Constitution, all one word, or email us at asoundconstitution@gmail.com. Thanks for tuning in, and we're looking forward to this journey with you.
We begin today by acknowledging that we are gathered on the unceded and traditional lands of the Nanaimo people, whose rich cultural history continues to inspire and guide us. Our broadcast also extends into the territories of the Coatsan and the Sliaman nations. We are deeply thankful for the Nanaimo people's enduring connection to this land and for the opportunity to live, learn, and work here today. We make this acknowledgement with a commitment to honor and respect Indigenous cultures, traditions, and histories, and to actively participate in the ongoing work of truth and reconciliation. For more information on the ongoing reconciliation work and land acknowledgement practices of the Nanaimo people, we invite you to visit our Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube pages.
Welcome to A Sound Constitution here on CHLY 101.7 FM. I'm Madison, one of your hosts for this season's first episode. We're so excited to kick things off by introducing ourselves and giving you, our listeners, a chance to get to know the voices behind the show. Our team is made up of 6 third-year Bachelor of Science in Nursing students from Vancouver Island University. We all come from different backgrounds but share a common goal of bringing you evidence-based information on health topics that matter to our community. In today's episode, we'll be interviewing each other, sharing things like what drives our passion for healthcare and what we hope to bring to A Sound Constitution this season. You'll hear from Finley and Sophia first, followed by Rebecca and Brianne, and finally Anna and myself. And to keep things interesting, we'll be sprinkling in some fun health facts along the way, so stay tuned. But that's not all. As we wrap up the episode, we'll introduce an important theme that will be integrated throughout the season: the social determinants of health. Getting to know these determinants helps us see the bigger picture of health in our communities. So stay tuned until the end. We might even give you a sneak peek of what's coming up in our next episode. With that, let's jump right in. I'll pass the mic to Finley and Sophia for our very first interview.
Hi, so today I'm sitting down with Sophia and we're just going to do a little bit of an interview and I'm going to be able to ask her a couple questions here. So first off, what has been your biggest challenge in clinical rotations and how did you handle it?
So far, I think my biggest challenge with clinicals has been learning how to separate emotionally from what I'm seeing and experiencing with my patients and not taking that home with me at the end of the day. You see a lot of people experiencing really challenging times in their lives, and I had a hard time not thinking about them when I went home. I sometimes still find myself thinking about my patients outside of the hospital, but I just keep practicing letting the thoughts pass and not getting fixated on them.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a career-long practice.
How has learning about pharmacology changed the way you think about medications and over-the-counter drugs?
It made me realize that not having a strong base of knowledge can easily result in harmful outcomes. For example, as someone who regularly uses Tylenol for headaches, I had no idea that I was often taking too high a dose. Even though the information is on the packaging, it can still be hard to interpret as someone without that pharmacology knowledge. I was shocked when I found out that 4 grams is the max allowed dose of Tylenol over a 24-hour period. I think there should be a lot more emphasis put on the safe dosing of over-the-counter medications. People so often wrongly assume that because they're over-the-counter, they can't be harmful.
How has your perception of nursing changed since you started the program?
I've always had so much respect for nurses. A good nurse can make a horrible situation so much easier. Since starting nursing school, I definitely have even more respect and appreciation for the nurses who have cared for me in the past. Now that I fully understand what goes into that role, I just can't thank them enough.
That's amazing you've had that care in the past. Next up, what are some of the passions that led you to nursing school? Or have you found a passion to follow in nursing school?
Yeah, so I really had no idea what I wanted to pursue as a career until partway into my grade 12 year. I worked as a nanny throughout high school, and I really fell in love with working with kids. My mom works in healthcare, so the topic of nursing came up. After being in the program for 3 years and having opportunities to experience pediatric nursing, I am definitely confident I made the right choice.
That's amazing. It's crazy how life works out sometimes. Next up, what does being a quality nurse mean to you?
It sounds cliche, but when I think about a quality nurse, the first thing I think about is caring. I've seen how easily nursing can become just another job for some people, and you can really feel the difference between those people and those who really care.
It seems like you're going to be a quality nurse. And finally, what has been the most rewarding part of the program so far?
I think the most rewarding part of the program so far has been our practice experiences. You learn really quickly that nurses working in the hospital don't get to spend as much time with each individual patient as they'd like to. Being a student, we have the opportunity to spend that extra time with our patients doing the little things. Even just having that extra time to sit and talk with them feels so rewarding. As nurses, we can't fix everything for everyone, no matter how much we may want to. So having those chances to make even just one patient feel truly supported and cared about is such a privilege.
Well, thanks so much for sitting down with me today.
Yeah, thank you.
It's time for Did You Know?
Did you know your pets keep you healthy? It's no secret that animals are a huge part of our daily lives, but did you know that having pets and growing up with animals actually has positive impacts on your physical and mental health? Animals influence so many facets of our daily lives, including our health and well-being. 2 of the areas I will focus on for today will be mental health and the development of allergies. Did you know that growing up with animals in your home has effects on your health that can last a lifetime? A 2024 study titled Gut Microbiota Markers in Early Childhood are linked to farm living, pets in household, and allergy. This study outlines the links between growing up on a farm or with pets in the household and the development of healthy gut bacteria in infants. This study outlines the rate at which these positive gut bacteria grow in children exposed to animals compared with children who don't have daily interactions with animals. It also outlines how this bacteria directly contribute to lower rates of asthma, seasonal allergies, and other allergic reactions. Another study that was published in 2017 in the Microbiome Journal found that pregnant women who had exposure to animals before giving birth saw similar effects on their children's gut health as compared to children who were only exposed to animals after being born. In addition to lower rates of allergies, this study also linked the development of these healthy gut bacteria to lower rates of childhood obesity. For more information on this topic, please check out these studies in our show notes from today's episode. Next up, you've heard dogs are man's best friend, but did you know animals are good for your mental health? The idea of animal therapy has become increasingly popular over the past couple decades, but did you know your pets actually have a big impact on your mental health as well? A 2021 study in the journal Anthrozoos identified key impacts of animals on mental health of their owners. For example, individuals in this study reported an increase in motivation and being able to more easily start activities or tasks. Participants also reported increased social connections and decreased loneliness, as well as identifying that their pets helped alleviate symptoms of anxiety and panic attacks. A 2019 study out of London conducted interviews with pet owners who also had a mental health diagnosis in hopes of identifying the therapeutic role of animals in their social networks. Key themes that emerged among the interviewees recognized that their pets were a source of reliability, positivity, and vibrance in an otherwise uncertain world. Animals offer a distraction from our troubles, and oftentimes just their presence alone provides a sense of peace and calmness. Participants also expressed the importance of their pets' roles within their own identity and understanding of self-worth. Participants indicated that the relationship with their pets accommodates trust, predictability, and acceptance, which they reported was often difficult to feel in their relationships with other people due to both real and internalized stigma about their mental health. I'd like to share a quote from one of the interviewees. In this quote, they are explaining how having a pet has helped them to feel confident in a new identity and how they are seen by the world outside. Quote, "Just walking a dog, and that's kind of all they see about you. And there's no kind of barrier up because, oh, you've got a mental health problem. And then there's always kind of something to stigmatize about you." Unquote. If you'd like to read some of these first-hand accounts for yourself or read further on the impacts of pets on mental health, these studies will be located in today's show notes.
Today I'm sitting down with Finley and I'm going to ask him a couple questions. Was there a specific moment or experience that solidified your decision to become a nurse?
Yeah, I think so. So I come from a really blue-collar background. I spent a fair amount of time, driving forklifts, installing siding, that sort of thing. I went through a period of housing insecurity when I was younger, and once I got my life turned around, I decided, I wanted to help people like I had been helped in the past. I sat down and consulted with my parents and decided I wanted a career space to change and to grow as I grew. That would give me some job satisfaction and it would let me help the people around me. At the end of the day, it was honestly a 50-50 shot between nursing and teaching.
Wow, it sounds like that life experience will really help you in your future career. As a man in a predominantly female field, what are the reactions of those around you when you tell them you're in nursing school? Do you agree or disagree with these reactions?
Yeah, so I get a lot of surprises when I say I'm in nursing school. I guess they don't expect a male to be going into nursing. I guess people seem to hold nursing to a really high standard in their head, and I get a lot of questions about what nurses do and how many guys there are in my class. I've had a few experiences now where I'm mistaken for a doctor or someone with more training when I enter a patient's room. Now, I attest that to the bias that males are not, going into nursing, so I think it's really cool that I get to challenge that perception.
That's amazing that you have that perspective there. So, what areas of nursing do you see yourself specializing in, and what's the reason behind that?
I think I see myself specializing in community nursing. It's a hard question to answer because even in the areas I don't expect to enjoy, like labor and delivery, when I have the opportunities to spend some time there, I find that I really enjoy the work. During school, I spent a fair amount of time working in and around homeless shelters and overdose prevention sites, and I've had a wonderful time connecting with the people there. I find I can relate to lots of the people in the shelters, and they have just the most wonderful stories to share. I worked closely with outreach nurses in those positions, and I think it would be very cool to go back and work in those same positions as a nurse.
That lived experience will really serve you well working with those populations. So, what has surprised you the most about nursing school so far?
I think the most surprising part about nursing school so far has been just how much we learn that isn't skill-based. I didn't expect to spend such an enormous amount of time treating more than just one person, doing stuff that isn't hospital-based.
In my head, I defined a nurse as what I had seen on TV. In reality, we focus on global health. We do things like this show where we bring information to the people and we learn how to educate people effectively. There's so much more about being a nurse than just starting an IV or giving a medication, and I wasn't aware of just how all-encompassing this career was going to be when I started it.
If you had to pick one nursing skill to master instantly, what would it be?
I think I would master therapeutic communication. I think, having the ability to say the right thing at the right time to the right person, every time. I think that would make the difference. I think that would make a phenomenal nurse. I think it's the hardest piece because, with therapeutic communication, it changes each time between each person. You really have to adapt it.
That's a great answer. Well, thank you for answering our questions today, Finley.
It's been an amazing pleasure. Thank you.
It's time for Did You Know? Did you know that the famous Just Say No campaign wasn't as effective as people once thought? For years, schools across the country used the DARE program, with police officers urging students to avoid drugs and alcohol completely. But research from the American Psychological Association showed that not only did DARE fail to reduce drug use, it may have even increased it. That's right. According to the American Psychological Association, students who completed the program were sometimes more likely to experiment with substances than their peers. Experts say simply telling kids to avoid drugs doesn't work because it ignores the reasons they may be drawn to them, like stress relief, social pressure, or curiosity. So what does work? Modern prevention programs focus on education and harm reduction instead of just saying no. These programs help young people to understand both the risks and the reasons people use substances. They empower teens to make informed decisions and offer strategies for staying safe, like knowing the dangers of fentanyl contamination or learning how to handle peer pressure. And here's another fun fact. Despite what you might think, drug use among teens is actually at its lowest point in decades. But there's a catch. According to the American Psychological Association, while fewer teens are using substances, more are experiencing overdoses due to stronger and more dangerous drugs in circulation. That's why education, not fear tactics, are key. So what's the takeaway? Teens today don't need scare tactics. They need facts, support, and the skills to make the best choices for themselves. And that's your fun fact for today. Stay smart, stay safe, and I'll catch you next time on Did You Know?
Hey Rebecca, what does being a good nurse mean to you?
To me, being a good nurse is about so much more than just knowing how to treat a condition or administer medication. It's about caring for the whole person, seeing them beyond their diagnosis and understanding their fears, hopes, and needs. A good nurse listens and makes sure patients feel seen and heard, especially when they might be feeling vulnerable. It's also about being there when it counts. Whether it's a comforting word, a reassuring touch, or just offering a little bit of space when someone needs it, nurses need to be patient and adaptable because every day can bring something new. But no matter what, it's important to approach each patient with compassion, to meet them where they're at in their journey. Being a good nurse also means being an advocate for your patients. It's making sure they are getting the best care, speaking up for them when something isn't right, and making sure that their voice is heard. And honestly, it's about taking care of yourself too. We can't pour from an empty cup, so taking the time to recharge and keep learning helps us show up better for those we care for. In the end, being a good nurse is about making a positive difference in someone's life, whether it's through healing, support, or just being there when they need it the most.
What challenges do nursing students face that could contribute to burnout before they even enter the workforce?
Being a nursing student is honestly quite tough. It's easy to feel overwhelmed long before you even start working as a nurse. First off, the sheer workload is a huge challenge. There's always something to study, skills to practice, and exams to prepare for. It can feel like you're constantly playing catch-up, and that stress really piles up. Then there's the emotional toll. Nursing students, we often experience situations that are really heavy, like seeing patients in pain or dealing with life and death moments. It's quite a lot to handle, especially when we're still learning how to manage those feelings. When we're just starting out, we don't always have the tools to cope with it, which can make it feel even harder. A big one that many of us students don't talk about is imposter syndrome. You're constantly asking yourself, am I good enough? Do I really know what I'm doing? The self-doubt can be exhausting, and it can lead to burnout if we're not careful and monitoring signs and symptoms. On top of that, nursing school is all about expectations, both our own and everyone else's. There's this constant pressure to get everything right, and that can really drain you. And of course, finding balance is tough. Us as nursing students often sacrifice sleep, food, and time just to keep up with the demand. When we're always on the go, it's hard to stay motivated, and energy can burn out way before we even start our first shift as a nurse. All these things, the workload, the emotional strain, self-doubt, and lack of balance can really wear us down. It's no wonder why burnout is such a real issue for many nursing students.
What's one piece of advice you would give to someone considering nursing as a career?
If you're thinking about going into nursing, my biggest piece of advice is to really ask yourself why you want to do it. Nursing is a career that takes a lot of heart, patience, and hard work, so it's important to be sure you are doing it because you truly care about helping others. It's not just about the job itself, but about making a difference in people's lives when they need it the most. That kind of impact is what keeps you going even when things get tough. Nursing school, I'm going to be honest, it's no joke. It's hard and it can feel overwhelming at times, but it's okay to feel stressed or unsure. What makes you get through it is knowing that you are working towards something meaningful. And don't forget to take care of yourself. It's easy to get caught up in the grind, but burnout is real. Make time to rest, lean on your classmates, and don't be afraid to ask for help when you need it. The great thing about nursing is that it's not a one-size-fits-all job. There are so many different areas you can explore, from hospitals to community care, public health, or even research from your own home. You'll have the chance to find out what feels right for you. But the most important thing is, just remember that nursing isn't just about treating illness. It's about connecting with people, supporting them during tough times, and offering a little light in moments of darkness. If that's something that resonates with you, then you're definitely on the right track of going into nursing. Okay, Brianne, what's one piece of outdated health advice that nursing research has disproven?
One piece of outdated health advice that a lot of people still believe is the old saying, starve a fever, feed a cold. It's been around forever, but modern research has shown that it's really not accurate. The idea probably came from a time when people didn't fully understand how the body responds to illness. The thinking was that eating would somehow fuel a fever and fasting would help lower it. But we now know that when you're sick, whether it's a fever, a cold, or even the flu, your body actually needs both nutrients and fluids to help fight off the illness. When you're sick, your immune system is working overtime, and that takes energy. Food provides the calories, vitamins, and minerals your body needs to support that immune response. Skipping meals can actually slow down your recovery because you're depriving your body of the fuel it needs to heal. That doesn't mean you should force yourself to eat a big meal if you're not feeling up to it, but light, nourishing foods like soups, broths, fruits, and veggies can be really helpful. Plus, staying hydrated is just as important. Fevers can cause dehydration, and drinking plenty of fluids helps regulate your body temperature and keep things functioning properly. The key is to listen to your body. If you're hungry, eat something nourishing. If you're not, focus on staying hydrated with water, herbal teas, or clear broths until your appetite returns. There's really no need to follow that old rule. Instead, it's better to focus on what helps you feel stronger and what supports your recovery.
What are some misconceptions about the nursing shortage that people might not understand?
Well, people often think the nursing shortage is just because there aren't enough people becoming nurses, but that's only part of the picture. Truth is, we have a lot of new nurses graduating every year. The real issue is keeping them in the profession. Many nurses leave because of burnout, overwhelming workloads, and a lack of support. Imagine being responsible for too many patients at once, working long shifts without any breaks, and constantly dealing with high-stress situations. Over time, that takes a huge toll on both mental and physical health. Another misconception is that the shortage is the same everywhere, but it's not. Some areas, especially rural communities, are hit much harder because it's tougher to attract and keep nurses there. Plus, it's not just bedside nurses that we're short on. We're also facing a big shortage of nursing educators. And without nursing educators, nursing schools can't accept all the qualified applicants who want to become nurses. This means that even though people are eager to join the profession, there's just literally not enough room to train them. So the nursing shortage isn't just about getting more people into nursing programs. It's about creating better work environments, providing mental health support, offering competitive pay, and making sure that nurses feel valued so they want to stay in the field. Fixing this problem requires a lot more than just hiring more nurses. It's about addressing the reasons they're leaving in the first place.
If you had to pick one nursing skill to master instantly, what would it be?
If I could master one nursing skill instantly, I'd choose clinical judgment. I'd want to master it in a way that really connects with people through relational practice. Clinical judgment is about recognizing when something is wrong, making quick decisions, and knowing how to prioritize care. But what really makes it powerful is how well you understand and connect with your patients. It's one thing to look at vital signs and lab results, but sometimes the biggest clues come from simply listening to a patient or noticing small changes in their behavior. A patient might say, "I just don't feel right." And even if everything looks normal on paper, that's your cue to dig deeper. Building that trust and connection means patients are more likely to open up, and that can be a huge difference between catching something early or missing it completely. And it's not just about patients. Relational practice matters with your team, too. Good clinical judgment often relies on teamwork. You need to be able to communicate clearly with other nurses, doctors, and support staff because healthcare is never a solo job. Being able to speak up, ask questions, and share observations can lead to better decisions and ultimately better outcomes for patients. So if I could master one skill, it wouldn't be just about making quick clinical decisions. It would be about combining that critical thinking with strong, authentic connections, because really, that's where real, compassionate, and effective nursing happens.
It's time for Did You Know?
Okay, so now let's talk about something most of us ladies have dealt with, period cramps. They're the worst, right? But here's something you may not know. Healthy fats can actually help. Omega-3s, found in foods like salmon, flax seeds, and walnuts, have been shown to reduce inflammation and ease menstrual pain. A 2018 study in Obstetrics and Gynecology Science found that women who consumed more omega-3s had significantly less menstrual pain compared to those who did not. These healthy fats work by lowering prostaglandins, which are those pesky hormones responsible for cramps. And here's a bonus tip. Pairing omega-3s with magnesium-rich foods like avocados and dark chocolate can help relax your muscles even more. So next time your period hits, add some walnuts and dark chocolate into your diet. Your body will thank you.
All right, we're getting to know the new voices behind A Sound Constitution this year. Today, we've got Madison, a third-year nursing student at BIU. Madison, welcome to the show. So, we hear about the nursing shortage all the time, but based on what you've learned in nursing school, or just your own opinion, what do you think people misunderstand about it?
I think a common misconception about the nursing shortage that I wish people understood is that nurses are very aware of how staffing shortages affect patient-centered care. Patients have every right to feel frustrated and angry, but just know that nurses share that frustration. They are doing their absolute best under difficult circumstances. Every nurse that I have ever worked with does their best to provide care focused around their patients. Unfortunately, despite their efforts, gaps in care still occur because there simply are not enough nurses to meet the demand. So as a student, I routinely seek ways to support my nurses by taking on tasks that are within my scope of practice. I know that even the smallest contributions help alleviate some of their workload in times of this crisis.
Thanks for sharing that, Madison. That's really insightful. Okay, switching gears, nursing school teaches a ton of clinical skills. But what's a surprising skill you didn't expect to learn in nursing school?
Although we learn a lot of hands-on skills, I think the most unexpected and invaluable skill I have developed is resilience and my ability to persevere through challenges and setbacks. Nursing school can sometimes be emotionally and mentally straining on us as students. However, I've learned that resilience is what pushes me forward, especially when workloads feel overwhelming. The difficult days are tough, but the sense of accomplishment that I have felt in this program is incomparable. This journey has absolutely reinforced my ability to adapt, and I hope to hold on to this quality and use it to positively shape my future as a nurse.
I love that. Thanks for sharing, Madison. Can't wait to hear more from you this season.
Thanks, Anna. I'm super excited to work on the radio program with you. And with that being said, you're still listening to A Sound Constitution. Let's jump into our next set of interviews as we continue to introduce this season's cast.
It's time for Did You Know?
Did you know the average nursing student in Canada must complete over 1,300 unpaid hours of clinical experience in various healthcare settings over their 4-year degree? Unpaid clinical placements have been a standard part of nursing education despite the financial challenges they pose for students. In Australia, the Australian Nursing and Midwifery Foundation is pushing for change. They are advocating for a nationwide rollout of the Commonwealth's PRAC payment, which would provide nursing and midwifery students $319.50 a week during mandatory clinical placements. This initiative, aimed at addressing placement poverty and supporting students in nursing, teaching, and social work, if passed, is set to be trialed July 1st, 2025, in efforts to tackle the ongoing nursing shortage. That's your fun fact for today. Stay tuned to A Sound Constitution for more insight on health and nursing. Keep learning, keep questioning, and keep tuning in to this episode.
Welcome to the newest host and casts of A Sound Constitution. As an introductory to new voices, we have Anna, a third-year nursing student at VIU. Welcome to the show. I'd love to ask you a few questions to let the audience get to know you better. Anna, what kind of impact do you hope to make in the lives of your future patients?
Thanks for the intro, Madison. I just want people to feel heard. I really want people to feel like they had a say in their own care. So often I'm seeing in healthcare, people walk away feeling like the decisions were made about them, not with them. If someone leaves an interaction with me feeling even a little more in control, a little bit more respected and heard, that's the kind of impact I want to have.
Thank you for sharing such a real nursing student perspective. I know that feeling really resonates with patients we work with. And with that being said, if you could change one thing about the healthcare system, what would it be?
If I had a magic wand, I'd make healthcare something you don't have to fight for. Because right now, it works best for the people who can afford it, who know how to advocate for themselves, and who can navigate the system. And that leaves a lot of people behind. Healthcare is complex, it's nuanced, there's no single fix, but I do know this. Care needs to meet people a little bit better where they're at. This means more mobile units, more outreach teams, more clinics and shelters in rural areas. It means expanding what's covered, because things like dental care, physiotherapy, mental health support, even massage therapy aren't luxuries. They're part of keeping people well. A healthcare system that only works for those who can afford it or know how to navigate it isn't good enough. Real healthcare keeps people standing in the first place, not just catching them when they fall. There's so much more to unpack on these topics. Tune in to future episodes where we'll explore them in depth with guest speakers later in the season.
Absolutely. Healthcare in its various forms are a human necessity. Thank you for sharing. I can't wait to hear more of your perspectives later on in the season as we tackle health topics that pertain to the community of Vancouver Island.
It's time for Did You Know?
Are you listening to this while sitting at your desk? Maybe in your car. We've all heard that prolonged sitting is bad for our health. But want to know a fun and ridiculously simple way to fight back? Activity snacks. And no, I'm not talking about grabbing a granola bar. Studies have found that doing just 10 bodyweight squats every 45 minutes during an 8.5-hour workday lowered blood sugar more than a 30-minute walk. Yep, you heard that right. Just a few squats sprinkled throughout the day can actually be more effective than a walk. Here's why. Your lower body muscles, those quads, glutes, and hamstrings, are powerhouses. When you activate them, they pull sugar from your bloodstream for fuel, keeping your levels steady. And get this, squats can even improve cognitive performance. So if you're spacing out in a meeting, maybe sneak in a few reps instead of another coffee. And here's the thing, your ability to move during the workday isn't just about personal habits. It's about policy, infrastructure, and how we design our working environments. Want to hear more about how systems impact our health? Well, you're in luck, because we're diving into exactly that later on this season with our episodes on policy, infrastructure, and health. So whether you're sitting right now or standing, why not try a quick set of squats? Your blood sugar and brain will thank you.
Thanks for that fun fact, Anna. I will definitely be incorporating squats into my lengthy study sessions. As we wrap up our first episode of A Sound Constitution, we want to take some time to introduce our audience to a common theme throughout our season, one that plays a huge role in shaping health outcomes across Canada, the social determinants of health. To give our audience more detail, I'll be passing the mic to Brianne, who will take us through what the social determinants of health are and why they matter.
Thanks, Madison, and hello to everyone who's listening. Once again, my name is Brianne, and I just wanted to talk about something that impacts all of us, whether we realize it or not, and that is the social determinants of health. Now, you might be thinking, the social determinants of what now? Don't worry, it sounds complicated, but it's really not. Basically, it's just all the stuff in our lives that affect our health beyond just going to the doctor. It's the conditions we're born into, how we grow up, where we live, where we work, and even how we age. These things can have a bigger impact on our health than medical care itself. So let's break it down into 5 key areas, and I'm going to give you some real-life examples to make it a bit easier for you to relate to. The first one, economic stability. This is all about money. Do you have a steady job? Can you afford healthy food, a safe place to live, and healthcare when you need it? As we all know, money problems can cause stress, and that can make it hard to eat well and even keeps people from seeing a doctor. In our current economy, many people are forced to work 2 or 3 jobs just to make ends meet. And they might skip doctor's appointments because they can't afford to miss work. And they might rely on cheaper, less healthy food because it's all they can afford and it's all they have time for. In the long run, this can lead to health issues like diabetes or heart disease. The next key area is education, which actually plays a huge role in our health. People with more education often live longer, healthier lives. And it's not just about school. It's also about learning how to take care of yourself and understand health information. If you don't know how to read a prescription label, for example, that can be a serious problem because you might end up taking the wrong dose, and that can be dangerous. Something else to consider is that education doesn't just stop at high school or college. Lifelong learning through health education programs can teach people about nutrition, exercise, mental health, and disease prevention. Schools that offer health classes give kids the tools they need to make informed decisions about their well-being. And beyond formal education, community workshops or even public health campaigns can make a big difference. Also, education shapes critical thinking skills. People who are well educated are often better at seeking out reliable health information and making informed health decisions. They're more likely to understand the importance of vaccinations, regular checkups, and healthy lifestyle choices. Think about someone who knows the risks of smoking because they learned about it in school versus someone who never had that information. That knowledge can literally save their life. And finally, education affects job opportunities, which ties back to economic stability. Better education often leads to better job prospects, higher income, and jobs with health benefits, all of which contribute to better health outcomes. The third key area is health and healthcare. Now, this one might seem obvious, but it's about whether or not people can get the medical care that they need. In Canada, we are fortunate enough to have a universal healthcare system, which means that basic medical services are available to everyone, regardless of income. That's a huge advantage compared to many places around the world, namely our southern neighbors. But having universal healthcare doesn't mean everyone has the same level of access. Access can be a challenge depending on where you live. People in rural or remote areas might have to travel really long distances to see a doctor or a specialist. Wait times can also be an issue for certain procedures. And while basic healthcare is covered, things like vision care, prescription medications, mental health services, and dental care aren't always fully covered, which can create barriers, especially for those with lower incomes. Just a quick side note, there is a new dental care plan that is helping to make the cost of dental care more affordable for eligible Canadians. Head over to www.canada.ca and check out the Canada Dental Care Plan under the Benefits tab for more information and to see if you're eligible. So back to my soapbox on health and healthcare. Preventative care like vaccines and regular screenings is the key to catching health issues early. Even though these services are often available, not everyone uses them. Some people might not have a family doctor, or they might not know how to navigate the healthcare system effectively. This is where health literacy and community outreach play really important roles, and this can ensure that people not only have access, but know how to use the services available to them. Moving on to the fourth key area, we have our neighborhood and our built environment. It's no surprise that where you live matters a lot. Is your neighborhood safe? Are there parks to exercise in? Grocery stores with fresh fruits and veggies? Clean air to breathe and safe water to drink? Living in a place with crime, pollution, or no access to healthy food can really hurt your health. Think about food deserts, which are just areas where it's hard to find fresh produce. People in these areas might rely on fast food because it's convenient and affordable, but that can lead to poor nutrition and subsequent health problems. Now, if you're still with me, let's dive just a little bit deeper. Our quality of housing also plays a crucial role. Poor housing conditions like mold, pests, or inadequate heating can lead to respiratory issues, allergies, or even chronic illnesses. Overcrowded living spaces can also increase the spread of infectious diseases, which became especially clear during our COVID-19 pandemic. The design of neighborhoods actually matters too. Communities with sidewalks, bike paths, and green spaces encourages physical activity, which reduces the risk of obesity, heart disease, and mental health issues. On the other hand, neighborhoods without safe places to walk or exercise can actually discourage healthy habits. Another thing to consider is frequent exposure to violence and high crime rates, because this just adds another layer of stress, which can affect mental health and even lead to chronic conditions like hypertension, aka high blood pressure. Environmental factors like air and water quality are also part of the picture. Living near industrial areas with poor air quality can lead to asthma and other respiratory conditions. Contaminated water sources can cause serious health problems, as we've seen in past public health crises like the water contamination issues in some Canadian communities. Ultimately, when cities invest in green spaces, affordable housing, clean transportation options, and safe recreational areas, it promotes healthier living for everyone. It's not just about personal choices. The environment that people live in shapes what choices are even available. And finally, the last key area falls under social and community context. And this is all about relationships and community. Take a moment to think about whether or not you have friends and family that you can truly count on. Having genuine support from others helps to reduce stress and improve our mental health. But let's expand on this a little bit more. Social connections don't just provide emotional support. They can also influence our behaviors and even our access to resources. For example, being part of a strong community network can help people find job opportunities, helps them access important healthcare information, or even get financial assistance during tough times. Think about community centers, faith groups, or sports clubs. These aren't just social gatherings. They're lifelines that foster a sense of belonging and purpose. On the flip side, though, things like discrimination, violence, or feeling isolated can really harm your well-being. Imagine someone who may feel isolated. Maybe it's an elderly person living alone. Without social support or a sense of community, they might struggle with depression or not have anyone to help them if they're injured or sick. All right, so why should we care about these social determinants of health? Well, because improving health isn't just about doctors and hospitals. It's about making sure people have what they need to live healthy lives. Things like safe housing, good schools, and decent jobs can make a really huge difference. When communities invest in things like public parks, clean water, and education, everyone benefits. Do you want to know something that you/we can do? Well, as individuals, we can support local programs that help build healthier communities. We can volunteer at community centers, support local food banks, or advocate for safer neighborhoods. And as a member of society, we can push for policies that tackle these issues, like affordable housing, quality education, and accessible healthcare. Even small changes, like adding a community garden, can have a truly lasting impact. Anyways, thanks so much for listening to me yammer on about this very important topic. I hope this helped to explain how health is about more than just the absence of illness. It's about having the chance to live your best and healthiest life. And remember, we all have a role to play in creating healthier and happier communities. And if you want to learn more about these social determinants of health, check out the World Health Organization's website at www.who.int and look under the Health Topics tab. Now, I'm going to go give my voice a rest and let you hear from Anna about some of the content you can look forward to in this season's episodes. Anna, it's all you.
If you've been with us so far, you've already heard Brianne's great breakdown of social determinants of health. So a big thank you to her for setting the stage for today's discussion. Now let's go deeper. What are some of the biggest health issues affecting our community right now? What's changing, what's staying the same, and what might be coming next? We don't know what topics will turn into full episodes yet, but here are some of the big ideas we're considering. And trust me, these are conversations you don't want to miss. Let's get into it. Healthcare access, who's getting left behind? We're lucky to have universal healthcare, right? But does everyone have the same access to care? Think about it. Do you have a family doctor? If so, you're one of the lucky ones because more than 1 million British Columbians don't. That means that no regular checkups, no easy way to fill prescriptions, and no one to follow up on test results. What happens when minor health concerns go unchecked? And what about mental health care? People who need support are waiting weeks, sometimes months, for appointments. Even if they get one, a lot of therapy isn't covered under MSP unless you're seeing a psychiatrist. What does that mean for people struggling with anxiety, depression, trauma, or any type of mental health concerns? And prescription drugs? Canada does have universal healthcare, but not for prescriptions. If you don't have extended benefits, some medications are just too expensive. How do these barriers affect different groups, seniors, low-income families, Indigenous communities, and people in rural areas? These are some of the questions we'll be asking. Your ability to get healthcare shouldn't depend on how much money you make, where you live, or whether you have private insurance. So why does it? Housing and food, why basic needs matter for health. The City of Nanaimo's Housing Needs Report showed that rents are climbing higher and higher, but wages aren't keeping up. Now here's something to consider. If you don't have stable housing, how do you keep up with medical care? How do you store your medications that need refrigeration? How do you recover from surgery without a safe place to rest? And what about food? Food banks across BC are seeing record high demand. More people than ever are struggling to put meals on the table, but food insecurity isn't just about having enough food. It's also about having nutritious food. What happens when cheap, processed options are the only things people can afford? How does that impact diabetes rates, heart disease, childhood development? We'll be asking, what's been done to support people at risk of homelessness? Are food programs enough, or do we need bigger policy changes? And how can the healthcare system better support people dealing with poverty? Because we know without housing and proper nutrition, good health is almost impossible to maintain. Substance use and harm reduction, what's changing? The BC's Coroner Report shows that illicit drug toxicity is the leading cause of death for people aged 10 to 59 in British Columbia, higher than car crashes, homicides, and suicides combined. That's a shocking number. What does harm reduction actually look like on the ground? We hear terms like safe supply and supervised consumption sites, but what do they actually mean, and do they work? And let's talk about stigma. We know people struggling with substance use face huge barriers to care. But how do attitudes within healthcare, within families, and within the general public make things even harder? These are the tough conversations we need to have, because behind every statistic, there's a real person. Safe supply, supervised consumption sites, naloxone training, are these interventions working? This is an issue that affects far more people than we think. What do the experts say? What do frontline workers see every day? And what are people with lived experience saying about what actually helps? You can expect our show to explore how policy, stigma, and community support play a role in tackling the toxic drug crisis. Women's health, barriers and breakthroughs. When we talk about healthcare, we can't ignore the unique challenges that women face. Reproductive health access is still limited in many areas. How easy is it to get birth control, pap smears, or IUDs in rural BC? Menopause and aging health. Why is there so little education and support for perimenopause and postmenopause? Why is it still somewhat of a taboo to talk about these subjects? Is there gender bias in medicine? Studies show women's pain is often dismissed or misdiagnosed. Is that impacting care, and how? We'll be looking at what's changing in women's healthcare and what still needs work. Looking at Indigenous health and closing the gaps. Indigenous communities experience higher rates of chronic illness, mental health struggles, and barriers to healthcare access. What's being done to improve cultural safe care in BC? How does historical trauma impact health today? And what role do traditional healing practices play in modern healthcare? Teen and sexual health, are we providing enough information? When we talk about sexual health education, contraceptions, and STI preventions for teens, are teens actually learning what they need in sex ed, or is it outdated and unrealistic? How easy is it for young people to access STI testing or birth control without judgment? What about gender-affirming care for trans youth? What options exist, and how accessible are they? Sexual health isn't just about preventing pregnancy. It's about understanding your body, relationships, health autonomy. Are we doing enough to set young people up for success? Moving to climate and environmental health and the impact of our changing world. Health isn't just personal, it's shaped by the whole environment around us. Air pollution and wildfire smoke are worsening respiratory issues like asthma. But how much of the role does air quality actually play in long-term health? Workplace safety is a growing issue, especially in physically demanding jobs like construction, port work, and healthcare. Are we doing enough at a policy level to protect workers? And what about climate change? It's not just about extreme weather. It's also affecting infectious disease patterns, food security, and mental health. You might explore how these environmental factors are shaping public health responses today. Chronic disease prevention versus treatment, heart disease, diabetes, and cancer remain the leading cause of death in BC. How much of chronic illness is actually preventable? What role does early screening play? How can you access the early screening in your community? Are we investing enough in prevention, or are we only treating disease once it develops? This season, we might take a look at BC's approach to chronic disease prevention and how it compares potentially to other provinces. And then finally, we can take a look at workplace and occupational health. Are workers safe? Work plays a huge role in health, yet we often overlook it. Are blue-collar workers facing higher health risks? What about workplace injuries and long-term disability? How can we improve mental health support in high-stress jobs like healthcare? We'll explore potentially how occupational health impacts everything from stress to long-term illness. And also, is there a health topic you would like us to explore? Do you have any questions about healthcare or community wellness? We definitely want to hear from you. So you can reach out to us on asoundconstitution@gmail.com, which is our email, or our Instagram, which is asoundconstitution, CHLY, one word, or our Facebook, A Sound Constitution. Please feel free to send us your thoughts, and you might hear your question featured in an upcoming episode. You never know. These are all topics we've thrown around, and we hope to dive deeper in them with you through the season.
And now here's a sneak peek of what you can expect to hear on next week's episode.
Have you ever thought about what it really means to not have a place to call home? What daily challenges come with navigating life without stable housing? In our next episode of A Sound Constitution, join me, Finlay, as we explore the realities of being unhoused in our area, the barriers people face, the support systems in place, and the work being done to bridge the gaps. We will be joined by a guest with hands-on experience in the field, a practitioner who meets people where they are and often works in the outskirts of traditional healthcare. It's an important conversation about community, care, and the realities of finding a way forward. I'll hope you'll tune in. You're listening to 101.7 CHLY, and I'm Finlay, a host of A Sound Constitution. Next week, we're tackling a topic that is often talked about but rarely understood: being unhoused in Nanaimo. What are the realities of living unhoused in our city? What challenges do people face daily beyond just finding shelter? And what programs are actually making a difference? In this episode, we're going beyond statistics. We're talking about lived experience, frontline struggles, and the gaps in our system that leave people vulnerable. And to help us do that, we have a few guests, people who have first-hand experience and know best what Nanaimo needs. This conversation isn't about quick fixes or easy solutions. It's about understanding the human side of being unhoused, what it takes to survive, and what it would take to create real change. If you've ever wondered what's really happening on our streets, or what you can do to help, this is an episode you don't want to miss. Tune in to A Sound Constitution this Thursday from 2 to 3 p.m. on 101.7 CHLY, or find us wherever you get your podcasts.
Thank you for listening. For details and show notes from today's episode, or to follow along on what's coming up this season, check out our Facebook page, A Sound Constitution, or our Instagram at CHLY A Sound Constitution. If you missed today's episode, or if you'd like to listen to one of our previous episodes, check us out on Spotify or YouTube at A Sound Constitution. We want to remind our listeners that the information presented in this show is for educational purposes only and does not replace the advice of your primary healthcare professional. Thanks again, and we hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.